Good morning and welcome to the STEAM Assembly. I love these events and I want to challenge each and every one of you to participate in this assembly in a very meaningful way. And that doesn't mean you have to stand up and dance. It doesn't mean you have to speak in front of everyone. What it means is there's information being presented to you that may have meaning for you in your life. And you have no idea about that right now. Opportunities present themselves in our lives, and it's usually by surprise. That's why we do these things. That's why people come into our school and are willing to share their experiences with you. This assembly is about people who have jobs in the arts. One of our learner outcomes is engaging in the creative process. And the way that I talk about that all the time is that engaging in the creative process doesn't mean that you're the best artist in the class or the best singer in the class. It means that you look at something, whatever it is, in a different way. That you engage that creative part of your mind and you say, you know what? This means something a little bit different to me than it means to other people. This happens in math classes and in science classes. This happens in our lives, where all of a sudden we look at something and it has a new meaning. What you'll hear from our panelists is that that has had real meaning in their lives. Whether it's their permanent job or an opportunity that presented itself in their lives. That can have meaning for each and every one of you. The reason why we expose you to so many things in school is because we never know what is going to have meaning for you. What will be a learning experience that is important to you. I am really appreciative of the fact that Mrs. Marr and our students came up with this idea, promoted this idea, and invited these panelists. That's a very powerful learning experience. That's a gift that they've given to you. And I ask, again, that each and every one of you, as you listen to what they say, as you listen to their experiences, ask yourselves, does this have meaning for me? Is there something about this that makes me think differently about a skill that I have or about a skill that I wish I had? That's when an assembly has meaning. That's when an experience has meaning, and that's when learning occurs. So that's my challenge to you this morning, and I thank Mrs. Marr and her students for such a wonderful job of putting this together for you. Thank you.
That loudly announces how short I am, but that's okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Mary Ann Marr. For those that don't know me, I'm a math teacher here, head of the math department. And going back about 4 years, 5 years actually, I thought it would be helpful for students to learn about different careers in STEAM fields. So as many of you know, and some of your parents are part of the panels in the past, we started with engineering. We went on to careers in medicine. Then 2 years ago, we did careers in finance. And this year, Ellie will talk a little bit about how we came up with this theme, but we're doing the arts. At the end of the assembly, I will announce our theme for next year. I feel this is different than when you go to a career fair, because when students go to a career fair, and when I was in your position, you tend to go to the tables of careers that you think you're going to be interested in. So it definitely has its value. I've talked to the school counseling department, and we feel that our events really complement each other, because you can go to those things you're interested in, but the whole idea of this panel, as Mrs. Gallo said, is to expose you to things that you may not even know about. And one of the really cool things you're going to learn about is there's a couple people up here that you know, because you sit in their classrooms every day, but they have gifts and talents outside the classroom that you may or may not be aware of. So I think that's very exciting. So our goal when we put this panel together is really to engage and get parents, community members, teachers that have other talents involved in this, so you can hear about those things. I am really excited. I began the series kind of facilitating it to kind of show students how it's done. And then 2 years ago, you may remember Noelia Aguirre, she was our MC for the finance panel. And as it goes on, I'm turning it more and more over to students. So this year, this panel is brought to you by Bailey Pody and by Ellie Schmoose. And I really just kind of help to facilitate that. So with no further ado, I want to turn it over to Ellie, who's going to be our MC for the day. Thank you.
Good morning, Chapag. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a senior here, and my name's Ellie Schmoose. So I went to Miss Marr my freshman year because I knew about the STEAM assembly, and I said, what if we did something with the arts? Because I know it was originally called STEM. And I've been in the arts my whole life. I've been dancing since I was 2, singing since kindergarten, acting since I was 5, so the arts has surrounded me my whole life. But when I went to Miss Marr, I knew the arts went beyond just what I was doing, and there's so many different careers. And I wanted to expose all of these students to the different variety that exists in the arts. So today we have community members who represent the different fields in the art industry, and I would like to welcome and introduce each of our panel members. So today we have Barbara Braverman, who is a choreographer. We have Linda McMillan, who you all know because she's a teacher here, but she will be talking about the many different careers that she does outside of the classroom. We have Joe D'Amelio, who's a musician and a parent here to one of the students. We have Stephanie Huberkovich, who is also a teacher here, but has a career outside of school. And we have Linda Allard, who is a fashion designer and a creator for Ellen Tracy. So the way that this is going to go in order is I'm going to start with Barbara. She's going to read the question out loud that she's going to answer for you. Then when she's done answering, it'll go down each row to each member. So Barbara, I would like to start with you, and what question would you like to answer?
So I don't start with my profession?
Well, you can start, start with that.
I'm a former ballet dancer, and in hand with that, I taught to augment my income when I was in Cleveland Ballet. And as I was teaching, I would choreograph pieces for many of my students for the spring performances and so on. And so I actually started off as a principal dancer with Cleveland Ballet. And then when my husband and I moved to Connecticut, I was asked to teach. And I worked with Arlene Biegelman, and I've been teaching in Connecticut for 38 years. And during that time, I would mount different ballets for the students, as well as choreograph some original programs. And about 18 years ago, Doug Winkle asked me to come and choreograph some pieces for the high school musical, and I've been doing that here at Chapag ever since. So I originally wanted to be a ballet dancer, and at 16, I was not really good enough to get into a ballet company. I went to NYU, where I was fortunate enough to study with quite a few people. I studied at the Martha Graham School, I studied modern dance, I studied jazz at Luigi's Jazz Studio. I was at New York School of Ballet with many former members of New York City Ballet and American Ballet Theater. And I actually began an apprenticeship with Twyla Tharp in those early days in the 1970s. So I think working with all of those people really opened up a whole new world to me beyond just ballet and the conventional forms of dance. And at NYU, we were also encouraged, actually required, to choreograph. So things have evolved over. It wasn't just one career that I thought I would pursue, and life opens up and just changes as you move along and work with different people. And so that's how I became a choreographer. And my advice to anyone considering dance or choreography specifically, I would really encourage you to work with as many different people as you can, in as many different art forms as you can. And the most rewarding part of the job is, for me now, and it has been for the last 18 years, is working with the students, because it is such a great joy to watch a student achieve a step that maybe was difficult for them to do, or a dance routine, or a whole piece, and then to watch them perform with confidence and self-assurance is just one of the best feelings in the world.
Thank you, Barbara. So now on to our next panel member, Linda McMillan.
So a lot of you know me as your photography teacher, but I do have a world outside of the school here that I get very involved in. I've always been, I graduated from UConn with a degree, with a bachelor's of fine art, and took that and went right into the hotel business. However, on the side, I've done graphic design work since that time. And so currently I do a lot of graphic design work outside of here, mostly at this point in life for free for nonprofits to give back. I'm a big believer in giving back. But outside of that, I also do fine art photography and wood art. I'm in several galleries and shops in the area, and that keeps me pretty busy. I also do a lot of art show planning. I've planned shows for as many as 90 artists that come in. So I keep myself a little busy. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my journey through graphic design, because that's probably the one thing that's been the most consistent throughout these years. I started when I moved down to DC right after UConn, and did a lot of work for hotels through word of mouth. I did work for several different chains. And to touch on something that is asked about in here, probably the biggest experience I remember starting out was when I did work for one of the properties, Hilton International, and one of the pieces, I saw one that I did was in the Washington Post, and that was just mind-blowing. And then within a few weeks later, another illustration I had done for them for a mailer was sent to people around the world. And that was just amazing to me that something I created was now being seen in Paris and in China. So it was just one of those moments of, wow, I really like doing this. I've kept my journey though, and I still do it. And then I picked up along the way other arts that I love to do. I tried a little bit of everything, but my three big things right now are fine art, photography, wood art, and of course the graphic design.
And now on to our next panel member, Joseph D'Amelio.
How's everybody doing? Well, one of the things about being a musician, I know everybody here likes to get up early in the morning. I never did. I like to stay up at night. When I was in 7th grade, that was the first time I got paid to play my guitar. And I have been playing it ever since. I started playing when I have photos of me playing when I was 9. So I always had music in me. I do believe music is something that everybody can do, but some people just have it in them. And I have been playing ever since. When I was 20, I went back to college, pharmacology. I studied chemistry, believe it or not. I was going to open up a pharmacy. Back then, pharmacy was really good. And then the chain stores started coming in. And I had a choice to make, to open a pharmacy or to open a music store. So I chose a music store. And then I had 2, and then I had 3 music stores, and I loved the industry. It was a lot of fun, and I got to play at night, and I didn't have to open my store till 11, which was great for me. But I've been getting paid to play my guitar for many, many, many years, and I've also taught music for many, many years. Since I've probably been teaching music for 40-something years. No, I'm not afraid. I'm 62 years old. I've been teaching guitar for 48 years. Every time you have a chance to teach, you teach. Today, I don't have to have a day job, so all I do is teach. And I start at 3:30 in the afternoon till like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it's a few days a week. It's more giving back right now. I love giving my music back, because when my students call me and say, Joe, I'm playing over here, would you come see me? I'm living through them. I don't know if you know my son here. I watch him play. I watch him play on stage, and I live through him. It's something I love to see. So my advice to everybody here who has music in them or who wants to be a musician, one, learn how to read music. You gotta learn how to read. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's the most important thing because it gives you more options as you get older. More job availability, let's put it that way. Two, and the ending is have a backup plan. Because music is a very hard business to get into and be successful at it. Doesn't mean it can't happen. It doesn't mean you can't be a millionaire tomorrow, because it happens all the time. I have friends that are making it right now. It's amazing. But I have thousands of friends who aren't. So have a backup plan. Do something with your education. Be a teacher. I love teaching.
You are so right. Having a backup plan is so key. That's, as an athlete, you're only one injury away from not being an athlete, right? As a dancer, and that is so important.
Yeah, it can happen to anybody. Even as a musician, my pianist in my band, I still play. My piano, he's a great pianist. This is him. Skill saw. Yeah, it happens. He didn't want it to happen, and he's a doctor. There you go, my piano player's a doctor. My guitar player owns an upholstery business. My drummer owns a restaurant. So everybody has something else that they do. Just be successful at whatever you desire. If you have a will to do something, do it. Go for it. If you don't, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. But have a backup plan. Right here now.
Thank you. And now on to Stephanie Shuck.
Good morning, guys. So I'll start out by saying I never thought I would have any type of job in the arts. I used to make sure I didn't have art classes in my schedule when I was in middle school and high school. I took everything else to not be in art classes. But I come from a family of, as they call themselves, amateur photographers. My parents took pictures of everything, and this is back when cameras came in things that looked like giant suitcases. Any place we went, the camera came. So I was kind of exposed to that from a really early age. I kind of dabbled with it a little bit on my own, but kind of never really pursued it. As you know, I'm a science teacher. I went to school actually for athletic training as my major, decided that I really liked working with students, really liked the science aspect. So I had a great advisor my junior and senior year who convinced me that I should become a science teacher instead. So that's what I did, and I didn't really look back at that. A few years ago, I got a really cute dog, and all of a sudden my entire phone was filled with pictures of my dog. And I didn't have any memory left to do anything else, so I decided around Christmas time that I was going to buy a real camera. And I decided if I was going to spend $500 on a camera, I better learn how to use it. So I took to the internet and used Pinterest and basically anything I could get my hands on to learn how the camera worked. And I decided that I was going to try one of those 365-day challenges where you have a theme every day and you have to come up with a picture that makes a theme. Now, no one was making me do it. No one was holding me to, you didn't take a picture one day, like, no one was going to report me or anything. But I decided that this was going to be my goal for the year. So I came up with a list of different themes and started to kind of brainstorm what would I do to take that picture. Sometimes that involved having my husband and my dog stand out in the snow for 45 minutes while I tried to figure out why my camera wasn't working. Sometimes it meant doing a lot of editing, and I noticed that I really liked doing it. It was fun. It wasn't something that I dreaded or, didn't want to do every single day. And I had an album on my Facebook page of all these pictures, and I started posting them. And my family and friends, were very supportive, giving comments, and they started to ask me to take some pictures for them. A lot of my friends were having babies around that time, so I started to do newborn pictures for them. And my mom was really insistent from the time I started that I should start a business. And I said, I don't have time, I don't think anyone will hire me, I don't know, I'm just not gonna do it. And she kept after me for 2 years. So I finally said, okay, you know what, I'll put a Facebook page up and see if I get any interest. And that was probably the best thing that she's ever made me do. Because within 2 years, I started to actually book a lot of clients, especially this year. This past summer, I actually went through the process of getting my business registered and accepting more clients, and I have been really busy, which is good. This past weekend I did 9 different photo shoots in 5 different parks over the course of a weekend. So you never know where life's going to take you. You may not ever intend to do something as a career. If you told me 5 years ago that I was going to have a photography business on the side, I would have laughed at you. So always pursue anything that you're passionate about, because you don't know where it can take you.
Thank you. And now on to our next panel member, Linda Allard.
I think I wanted to be a designer from a very early age. I didn't know that, but I loved playing with dolls and making doll clothes, and I started there. My mother taught me how to sew. She was very specific how I should learn how to do everything correctly. And so I did, and then I started making clothes for myself, then I started buying patterns and making clothes, and then I started creating my own patterns. I learned enough that I could make wedding gowns for friends, I made clothes for friends. It was a way for me to make money. That was while I was still in high school. And I got a scholarship at Kent State University. They didn't have a fashion program at that time. I was an art major, which I loved, and I still love my art. I graduated from Kent, took a Greyhound bus to New York with $200, and walked the streets in the garment center looking for a job. When I was practically destitute, I found a gentleman called me back that I had interviewed with, and asked me to come back and meet the boss. And I went, and he said, he looked at my portfolio. He said, well, this might be a job here. How much would you, how much do you need? And I said, well, I need $50 a week. Very naive. He said, well, I can't hire you for 50, but if you have 60, you'll take 60, you can have the job. So you never know when and how this is going to happen. I worked at Ellen Tracy from 1962 till maybe 10 years ago. When I came to Ellen Tracy, we were making blouses and shirts for women for really young women. They were $30 a dozen in the stores. Eventually, I decided that we could go further. I made a jacket and a pant outfit. That was the first sportswear that we did. We went on to become a wonderful opportunity for women. Women were going into the workplace at that time, and they needed business clothes, and that didn't exist then. And so Ellen Tracy became a very, very important women's wardrobing. Big success. My husband sold the business in about 15 years ago and retired. And so we retired. So I think you have to be determined. You have to kind of know in your mind, what you think you want to do, and just go for it. However hard it may be in the beginning, there is going to be a wonderful ending if you keep at it.
Thank you. And now we're going to go back down the line, starting with Barbara again, and if you could just read the question out loud that you would like to answer, and then answer it for all of them.
What schooling is needed to become a choreographer?
Could you?
Sorry. That's all right. So you certainly don't need formal schooling. You don't have to go to college to become a choreographer. You do need to work with other choreographers. You do need to understand and to have studied different dance forms. It can't just be all original, because you're usually choreographing. You can choreograph on yourself, but if you're choreographing on other people, you need the disciplines to study other forms of dance. And again, I can't stress how important the apprenticeship is, because it's not something that you can just teach yourself or do on your own. Isadora Duncan was probably the great exception many, many years ago. You really need to study and have somebody constantly correct you and push you beyond your limits. And it's in that way, I think the arts are unique, that whether it's music or dance, that you do an apprenticeship and you meet as many different people and work with as many different people as you possibly can.
Thank you.
And actually, I'm going to piggyback onto that, because people are important to you no matter what you choose to do. One of the questions asks the question, who's the most interesting person you've met and why? My answer to that is everybody. Everybody has their story, and everybody has their life that you don't know about. And it's just, once you get them to open up, you find amazing things out about the person sitting next to you. So my thought for you would be, don't just look for one story, don't just look for that one interesting person. If you open yourself up, you'll find that there's a lot of amazing, kind, generous people out there. And you really need to leave yourself open to all those experiences you're going to gain from knowing each one of those people.
Thank you.
I'm going to cut one of these questions in half. Advice. You know, I look at everybody out here, and I remember when I was in high school, and I was always wondering, and I'm sure you are, what do I do tomorrow? What am I going to do for the rest of my life? And where am I going to go to school? What college? You know, you worry about so many things. Jeez. Tomorrow's going to come no matter what. So instead of worrying about it, think about what you feel inside and what you want to do for the rest of your life, and go after it. As a backup plan, what I said before, it'll come no matter what. Something else will always come, but you just have to put your foot forward and just keep walking. Don't worry about tomorrow, okay? And if you have a goal, go for it and enjoy your life.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the steps steps to create a business. So I had to kind of take a very quick crash course in how anything business related. I've never taken a formal class in it, but I did do a workshop this year online. I found a lot of really good resources through different photography groups that I'm in that kind of went through all the steps, because it's really important whenever you are accepting money for a business that you're legal. You need to pay taxes. So basically what I did was I met with an accountant, and we kind of went through all the different options. There's, depending on the type of business that you're having, there's different routes that you can take. I'm a sole proprietorship because my business is very low risk. The other option that I could have had was an LLC, but for me, it wasn't a good fit just because there's a lot of upfront costs. And I'm not dealing with $1 million contracts where there's a lot of risk that I'm going to be sued for millions and millions of dollars. So I met with an accountant, we went through the process. It's actually pretty easy in Connecticut. It's all online, and it's all automated. So they take you step by step by step. So you go through, you file your business name, you check to make sure that nobody else in the state has it. We checked at a federal level as well. Then we went through and we filed paperwork to collect sales tax, because in Connecticut, photography is a service that you tax. It's not the case in every other state. So we did all that. It took literally about 20 minutes to do. It was something that I was really dreading and was kind of put off for a few weeks. And it was pretty easy. A few weeks later, I got something in the mail that I was officially a registered business in Connecticut, and that I could start accepting jobs for money. So that was nice. But there's also the aspects of having contracts in place. You need to protect yourself. That was kind of the first thing that all of these instructors that I talked to in these workshops said. You need to make sure you're legal and you need to make sure that you're protected. So I have a friend who's a contract lawyer, so he and I sat down and he helped me write up different contracts for the different jobs that I was doing to make sure that I was protected, but also that I was protecting my clients. So, making sure you have those resources available if you're thinking that you want to have a business, reaching out to accountants, to lawyers, is really important to help you kind of take the correct steps.
Thank you.
This question is, what schooling or training is needed to become a clothing designer? I think I was very fortunate, as I said, that I kind of made my way through school without having any real fashion learning. I could sew, I knew how to do that. I knew how to make clothes. But there are some wonderful schools out there that I can give you two. I went to Kent State, now has a wonderful, wonderful fashion school. They have a great program. The good thing about Kent State is that you get a real education and you learn how to become a designer or a developer of clothes, whatever you want to do in the clothing business. And it's so interesting now, it's so high tech. There's so many different ways to make clothes, and it's wonderful. Another option is New York City. Parsons School is a really excellent school. If you're interested in fashion design, I think, or going out in that vein, I think both of those schools are really excellent. But there are a lot of other schools in the country, and I recommend that you, if that's what you want to do, go to one of those kind of organizations where you can really get a good training.
Thank you. Barbara, is there any question that you wanted to go into more detail with, or is the...
I don't think so. Are there any other questions?
Does the audience have any questions that they would like to ask? I have a question for you, but how many different styles of dance have you studied over the years?
Pardon me. Let's see. At NYU, I actually got to study classical Indian from India dancing, which is completely different from ballet. You're in a bent position like this the entire time. And our teacher was so incredible. She could actually move the different sides, each side of her face differently. So if one side was happy, the other side could look very tragic. She could do remarkable things with her hands, and I just studied it for a year, but it was a very intense study of a classical style of dance. And previous to that, I had studied ballet and tap and jazz for 10 years, like you, since I was very little. And at NYU, when I got to study at Martha Graham's school, every day I went for class. And Martha Graham was pretty up in her years by then, and she was not dancing, but she would walk through the classroom and in her caftan, and there was such a reverence about this woman that she would as you're doing your plies and your contractions and all of your different movements. And that was a completely different discipline from classical ballet. And at that time, there weren't too many ballet dancers who studied modern or too many modern dancers who studied ballet. They were completely separate worlds. And within a very short time, by the 80s, that was really, every ballet dancer was taking modern, and every modern dancer worth their salt was studying ballet as well. So I was also fortunate enough in Cleveland that we performed during the fall, winter, and spring, but most of the theaters didn't have air conditioning, so we'd go out and we'd do the Straw Hat Circus, and I became got my Actors Equity card, and I did Broadway musicals every summer and toured throughout Ohio and Michigan. And we got to, we always had a big headliner, whether it was Betty White or Gordon McRae or whoever it was. We always had well-established actors and actresses and dancers who starred in our shows. And so I got to do a lot of Broadway shows over those many years.
That's amazing. I had no idea that you got to have that experience. Thank you.
I was going to flip one of the questions. One of the things I wanted to talk about is there's a question of how has photography changed over the years. When I first started in photography back in college, it was very restrictive in that unless you had access to a darkroom, you were not going to become a photographer. You could go get your pictures, and I think we all, us older folk, remember taking a week to get them back from Photomat or whatever, but it was very restrictive. One thing that's been exciting with digital is that it opened it up for so many people. And everything comes full circle, because now darkroom photography is actually, in the art world, making a comeback. It's actually become a very elevated art form, to the point where now it's hard to find affordable film cameras. So it's just kind of interesting how that has come full circle around, as much does in the art world. I think everybody up here could probably agree that what was once popular eventually comes back in some form or another. So there's been a lot of change, but the basic concepts of a good image and a technically well-done image haven't changed that much. So it's much more accessible, but you still have to have that eye and that drive and that passion for it. And bringing that down, what schooling or training is needed, and I'll speak to both graphic design and photography, because those are the things I've done the most over the years. Really, in today's world, again, with YouTube and videos, you can do so much of your training online, but the one thing I would suggest for art photography is get those art classes in, get that color theory going, get the compositional skills. That's probably the most important skills you can have as any artist, is to take command of your compositional abilities. The technical will come, and it will come, and everybody can grab that and run with it, but it takes the passion and the creative skills, the compositional skills, to really make it fly. That would be my...
Thank you.
Well, what you just said about YouTube is amazing, what you guys have in front of you. When I was growing up, just to learn how to play an instrument, you used to have to take the little needle and put it on the record and try to get it as fast as you could, do it again and again. Maybe that was a good way to learn. But I also knew some people back then, in the early days, there was musicians all over the place. A lot of them you probably wouldn't remember. One you might, I used to play with a guy named Steven Tallarico. His real name is Steven Tyler, he's from Aerosmith. But you meet these people and you watch them and they were really bad. Aerosmith stunk. A lot of the bands that you used to meet were not very good. But you watch them work and work and work and work and work. And they keep paying their dues, that's what they say. You have to pay your dues. So that's why I said before, have a backup plan. Because you have to make money while you're paying your dues, okay? But if you want to pursue music, my advice to you is to go to a really good school like Berkeley in Boston, Juilliard in New York, or even New York Conservatory of Music is very good. There's local colleges that have really good music departments. Even our own UConn or WestConn in Danbury just pump millions into their music department. So there's a lot of school available for everybody at every income. And if you want to pursue music, I highly suggest going to a really good school. Not only are you getting the education, but you're meeting people who are really good in that field. And that's what you want to surround yourself with. That's about it.
Thank you.
I wanted to touch base with that on what he said. Absolutely, a good school is so important. And a good attitude is important too. When I was in art school, you saw amazing artists who took their talents and their abilities just were kind of granted, and they would just do what they needed to do and get through the course and move on. But then you'd see people that they'd walk into your course and just, you didn't think they were going to make it through. And they wound up producing some of the best work in the class because they never gave up. They kept going and they kept going. It had to be hard for them because they're in this class with these instructional people that are amazing, these classmates that are just naturally talented, it seemed, artists. And then you got these folks that, boy, did they work, and they worked, and they worked, and they had that passion. And they were the ones that wound up being some of the most successful people I graduated with, were these folks that just gave it their all and didn't let anyone tell them they couldn't do it. So it's really important. The school is so important, but so is your own attitude and your own drive.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like to manage being a full-time teacher and having a side job too, a side business. It is a lot about time management, making sure that I'm getting things back to clients on time, answering emails in a timely manner, but also not letting things fall apart here at school or fall apart at home. As most of you know, I have a 1.5-year-old. So it's, I spend a lot of time kind of mapping out what my week's gonna look like. I make sure that I'm not taking on more than I can handle, which sometimes means having to turn down jobs that I really want to do. But it's all about balance and having a lot of support with that. My husband picks up a lot of the slack during my busy season. One of the sayings, October for photographers is like April for accountants. It's super, super busy because in New England, we have great fall foliage, so everyone wants to get those pictures with those bright backgrounds. But when I have these busy weeks where I'm doing 12 or 14 shoots over the course of a week, I need to make sure that I have everything set up here. I use whatever seconds I have at school to make take advantage of getting things ready when I'm at home. If my daughter's napping and dinner's cooking, I quickly, get on my computer, do a few edits, answer some emails, set up, my promotional things for the week that are gonna go out on my social media channels. So time management is a skill that, we try to teach you here at Chippewa, and it's a skill that's going to help you no matter what career you pick. So work on that now.
So I'm going to try and answer two questions. That one is, that on here is, what is your favorite thing about being a designer? And what is the most difficult thing about being a designer? And I think they go hand in hand, because it is a great deal of fun. It's wonderful to be creative and think that you're really making wonderful clothes for women. You also have a lot of deadlines. You have to find fabric, you have to have a good sewing staff, a good pattern maker. If you can do any of those skills, you're at a great advantage. As I said earlier, I was making clothes when I was very young, and that really helped me in my career to direct other assistants and other people and exactly how to do that, how to make fittings. But it's hard work, and it's a lot of deadlines and a lot of late nights and fashion shows and all of that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun, but it requires a lot of effort on your part. It's not an easy job, but it is very satisfying. I love the fact that women coming into the workplace were such large fans of Ellen Tracy, because it was one of the few companies at the time that was making clothes that were suitable for women to work in. I mean, everything before that was it was casual, it was a very different kind of clothes. And so doing that and finding your place and what your niche is, but working hard at it, I think, will make you successful.
Thank you.
I wore your clothes and you were right, because women had like house dresses. Yes, it was like out of I Love Lucy era, and this woman changed it.
Well, yes, well, thank you. It wasn't just me, but I know that it was a part of a major movement when women were first becoming important in business, and they needed a certain kind of sophisticated clothes to wear. But thank you.
All of these people in front of you are all inspirational, and the advice that they gave you, even if you're not interested in the art industry, I hope you can take some of the advice that they say and apply it to your daily life, especially with what you said, Ms. McMillan, about your attitude and applying yourself. That's for any career. That's not just focused on the arts, because at the end of the day, no matter the schooling you do, you have to be dedicated to it. So I just want to end this evening with asking one final question that each of the panel members will answer, and then I'll give it back to Ms. Marr. So the last question, is there anything that you would change or improve upon if you could go back in time with this career? And if there's anything that you don't want to change, you can say that as well.
No, I don't think there's anything I'd change. I've enjoyed each stage of my career and how it's changed. And actually, separate from dancing, I used to say the first 25 years of my life were spent indoors studying dance and dancing. And the second 25 years, I've actually been running a horse barn. And I'm across the street from Miss Allard. And she also is quite a lovely artist and is frequently outside with her easel and making artwork. So I think as time goes on, it's I still enjoy choreographing, I still enjoy teaching, but your life takes many different turns, and I would definitely agree with Joe that if you feel strongly and you have a passion, you've got to pursue it. You really need to just believe in yourself and go for it, because life is too short. And just like Stephanie said, basically life is all about time management. So what you're stressed out about, especially seniors this year, is
is, I hate to tell you, but that's what life is. And so you just have to enjoy everything you possibly can.
Thank you, Barbara.
It's a good question. I don't think there's a lot I would change. The only thing I could even possibly think of that I would change is the times when I didn't believe enough in myself and I was afraid. And I think I lost some chances because I wasn't going to stand up and face that. I've had a great time in my career. I love what I do. And I've come full circle now, but there were times that I was like, I can't do that. And I would just kind of go to somewhere else, an easier path. And I've definitely overcome that. And it's better on this side of that fence. Just know that if you're not sure of yourself, talk to people. They'll often give you the feedback you need. Talk to people in the industry, talk to people, you know, sometimes friends will be too kind, so they're not always the best source of talking to. But find someone who knows what it is you're trying to do and talk to them, and often you'll find that you're perfectly capable of it. The hardest thing to overcome sometimes is yourself.
That last thing is so true. I wouldn't change a thing. I have been positive since I was very young. I never, ever worried about what other people thought. I mean, look at me. I get told so many different things about the way I look, but I don't care. I'm happy. I love what I do. I've loved it from day one. So that's what I mean when I say, deep down inside, find out what it is you love and follow it. Go after it. It's not going to come to you. You have to go out and grab it, pull it in, and enjoy it. If you do something you don't like, life's not going to be fun. If I had a tar roof, I would hang myself. I couldn't do it. My hands, I have very clean hands. I don't like work. Okay, and if you don't follow your dream, you're going to have to do work. Don't be afraid of anyone, and don't ever let somebody tell you because you can.
I think the thing I would change the most, kind of piggybacking off what Dylan said, is I would have, started to look for constructive criticism outside my family and friends a little earlier. And even looking for people outside of who I know as a resource. I really kind of struggled my first year that I was, trying to start my business because I didn't know what to do. I didn't really know where to find information. I looked online a little here and there, but it wasn't really until I started, talking to other photographers and connecting with people either through social media groups or through these workshops that I did, that I was really able to kind of figure out what I was doing and learn the proper ways of going about it and really be able to grow my skills and my business. So using those resources and finding them earlier would definitely have been a huge help. So always look for resources. If you're interested in something, it doesn't hurt to send an email. You never know what someone's going to respond. They might be able to help you out. They might, tell you, sorry, I can't, or they might direct you towards someone who's even a better resource.
I just want to say one thing about what was just said. I didn't realize until just now when you said you asked other photographers for advice and they gave it to you. When I was growing up, I asked other musicians for help. And I got help from every one of them. And I know this to be true today. Every musician will help you. So maybe in other fields it holds true too. That whatever it is that you love, don't be afraid to ask people who are in it because they probably want to help you. But don't ever be afraid to ask.
Definitely go into the industry and ask. And it doesn't matter if you're a scientist or an artist or whatever you might be. In the arts that I work in, you'll find people always happy to help. They may not want to give you their trade secrets. An example, I know a fine art photographer locally who's fantastically successful. And if you ask her how she does a certain technique in Photoshop, she's not going to share that with you, because that's something she's taken a long time to develop, and it's her signature. But if you ask her about the industry, if you ask her to look at your work and give you feedback, she will be right there with you, giving it to you. So always ask, always ask. They may not give you their trade secrets, but they will always help you, and I've never met an artist not willing to help another person use it. Never.
I think that's true. I would say one other important thing to your success is choose something that you really love to do. If you don't love it, it is going to be a challenge that you are not going to be, you won't be successful. You have to love what you do. It doesn't matter how hard it is, how long you work, how much energy you have to put into it, but you have to love it.
Thank you, Ms. Allard. I would like to thank everyone for coming today, including all these panel members, because they took time out of their busy lives to come and talk to us. And I would now like to hand it over to Ms. Marr.
Thank you, Ellie. I think we should also give Ellie a round of applause. You did a fantastic job. And also Bailey for helping to put the panel together. And Bailey's mom, Jen Pody, who also gives her time, all the time on the Board of Ed. She also helped us with the panels. So to Jen Pody, we also So coming to our panel members, having been somebody that was in industry, I know it's very difficult to find time in your busy day to come and to give back. That was definitely a theme I heard from everybody on this panel, is giving back. And giving back through teaching, through helping others, through mentoring people, that's an awesome gift. And it's a gift to our students, and it's a gift to all the people that you've done this for. I hope that you would reach out to the people on the panel. I'm sure that they would have no issue continuing to help you if you have questions for them. We have their emails available. Some of them live right here in our schools, so you know who they are. I'm sure you know how to contact Joe's dad. But giving back is something that is very, very important, and it's also something that brought me into teaching industry as well. So many themes that we talked about today. We've heard about being passionate about what you're doing, and going after it. One thing that I felt really rang true through all the panel members is that their climb and their path wasn't easy. It was something that they worked very hard to get to, and something that they continued to push themselves and to strive. And you even heard them talk about some of the most successful people they know are not necessarily the people that stepped in and were immediately good at it, okay? So whatever class you're in or whatever thing you want to pursue, that's something that you also will hear from your teachers. Not everybody, for example, in my class may define themselves as mathematicians. Some of you are working on getting there. Everybody can do that. Everybody can do all the things they're talking about. Everybody can do whatever you want to do. It just takes drive. And a lot of that, as you heard the panel members say today, really comes from within. It's something that you need to do, but the other piece is that there are people out there that are ready, willing, and able to help you. If you think about your talents and the things you're most passionate about, and the things that you have an expertise in, how many of you would be willing to help somebody else learn those things? Raise your hand. How many of you would be willing to help other people? Okay? Right. So when you're looking at that, and if your hand isn't up, I don't know if it's truthfully, sometimes students may not see the gifts and talents that they have, but I feel like if somebody came and asked you to help them with that, knowing so many of you, I don't think that you would say no. And that's just going to continue throughout your life. So, the message also that I heard coming out to, especially juniors and seniors, but all of you is, and here's my phrase I like to say, is the path will become clear. So even though right now this seems like very, very stressful time in your life, the path will become clear, and those that went before you will tell you that, those sitting here on the stage will tell you that, and sometimes the path takes a very different direction. For me personally, people used to always tell me in college that I should be a math teacher, and in high school, which I kind of forgot about, and I would say that's very nice, and I like explaining math, but that's not the path I'm taking. And here I am, 16 years later, on this path of something I said that I wouldn't do. But I will say this to you, I'm very grateful that life led me in this path because of all the relationships and all of the students that I've met who've influenced me as much as I hope I've influenced them. Working at IBM was a very wonderful thing, and I definitely loved it, and I was passionate about it, and I had a lot of accolades and rewards. But standing in front of a classroom, and you heard all of them saying giving back, I think they'd agree with me, and helping and mentoring people is the kind of reward that's very difficult to put into words. So I just leave you with, go after those things you're passionate with, work hard to get there, and don't ever step back and say because you don't see yourself there or because maybe right now you can't see yourself there. You heard the advice. I would give the same advice. There's times I step back from things because I didn't always believe I could do them. And I agree with that advice. Go talk to other people, because there's oftentimes the greatest gift you can have is to see yourself through somebody else's eyes. And there are people out there that will help you. And it could be your friends and your family, but I think you heard the panel members say, reach out to others, whether they're experts in the field or somebody that will be brutally honest with you. So, are there any other questions that you wanted to answer? Just putting it out there in the audience. Anything else you would want to know? Okay, Grace.
Ms. Shuck, what other than Facebook and people just stumbling upon it, what kind of advertising do you do to make your business known?
Did everybody hear that question? She was asking Mrs. Shuck what kind of advertising she did other than Facebook to make her business successful.
So, I use a lot of social media for my advertisement, but word of mouth is stronger than any tool on social media. So one of the things I always make sure is, whenever I work with a client, I always send them a handwritten thank you note. When I send them their packages, I touch base with them after, I'll touch base later in the year. Having those relationships is way more powerful than any type of advertising.
Thank you, Ms. Shuck. Anybody else have a question for any of the panel members? Okay, so logistically, again, I want to thank everybody for taking their time, and thanks to Kelly. So my last great reveal before I release you is next year. So next year's theme is going to be to celebrate technology. So if you know people in the technology field, please see me, and I'll look again for students to help coordinate and put this together. Just let me know.